Hi everyone, today I have a very exciting video to share with you all. This will be kind of instructions and a introduction to the release that we did this morning, which is a beta version of integration with Zapier. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Zapier, it is essentially a software or program or service or whatever you want to call it that allows two other pieces of software that normally could not communicate with each other to be connected. It serves as the bridge between the two, and it operates on a pretty simple principle of actions and triggers, or I guess triggers and actions it should be. So basically what that means is you can set it up to where when something happens in the first piece of software or program, do this in the other one. So VacationCRM can now do that. And we have set up triggers for several different things. Basically, if you create or edit a profile, group profile, trip, reservation, or reminder, you can have it do something elsewhere in another program. So I'm going to give a couple of just basic examples, but just keep in mind this could be used for thousands of other things. So at a high level overview, one thing I can think of off the top of my head is if you use some sort of marketing program like MailChimp or Constant Contact or similar, you could have it set up to where when a profile is created in VCRM, automatically add that to Zapier, which sends it to your email marketing program. But in this video, I'm just going to give some very basic examples. So I'm going to use Google Sheets for both examples for different things. So let's say first I want to, when a new profile is created in VCRM, I want it to create a row on a spreadsheet that I've created in Google Sheets automatically, so I have a running tally of my client list, we'll say. And then the second thing I'll do will be also a spreadsheet, but let's say I want to track trip data. Alright, so the first thing you need to do, step one, is you need to go to Zapier and you need to create an account, which I've already done just so you don't have to sit here and watch me create an account from scratch. It's just zapier.com and then follow the prompts to create your account. Once you have done that, you will need to go to VCRM and go to settings, and you can go to manage user details, and then you'll see a new option here for Zapier setup, which you did not have before. So first things first, we want to enable this, and there's a disclaimer that you need to acknowledge and then click enable, and now that will be enabled. And we'll keep this screen up. We'll come back here after we click here. We'll need to come back here several times. So the first thing you need to do is send yourself an invitation link. So we'll click this. If you are not already logged into your Zapier account, you'll need to log in, but then you'll see this screen here, and we will accept, invite, and build a Zap. Okay. Now that we're logged in, we're going to just click create a Zap, and you can see it gives you some examples of things you may want to do. So we're just going to click create Zap, and we're going to click on trigger, and here's where you are going to search for VCRM. So it's entered as VCRM, not VacationCRM right now. We might change that, but either way, search one or the other, and you'll see it here. We'll go ahead and click this, and so now we've got the trigger program selected, and you can see that here as well. If you need to change it, if you selected the wrong thing, you can change it here. And then we need the event. So in this case, like I said, I want to use the create profile trigger. So basically when a profile is created, add to my spreadsheet. So we'll say create profile, and we will click continue. And here is where you're going to tie your VCRM account to your Zapier account. So we're going to go ahead and click sign in, and you're going to see this screen here, and as soon as it loads, you're going to enter your user ID in VCRM and your agency ID, and then you're going to grab this out of VCRM. So in this case, Steven, and this is the demo account, and then in here I'm going to go back to my manage user details screen, and I'm going to copy the Zapier API key, and then we're going to go back in to this screen. Whoops, it opens it in another window here. Put that in, and we will say yes, continue to VCRM. And now that is connected, the account is. And that is kind of a one-time thing for your Zapier account. Once you do this step, you don't have to do it again unless you have a different account, Zapier account that you're using. So we're going to click continue. And so this is a link that you will also need to enter in your manage user details. So that's what ties that action to this Zap. So we're going to click copy, and we're going to go back into manage user details, and we already have this enabled. And so I want to look at the, I'm looking for, in this case, profile create. So we're going to enable, and then we're going to paste that link in. And it's very important that you click test in here because that kind of ties them together. So we'll click test. Test was successful. We'll go ahead and save this. And we'll just open that back up in case we need to go back in there for any reason. Alright, so it's enabled. I've got that enabled. I've got my link in here. And be careful too, because you can see by my cursor here, this one's empty. So it may look like you've entered it. Actually click in here and see if there's actually text in there, or if it's just the placeholder text that's just kind of in there to show you where the link would go. And then we're going to go back in here now that we've done this, and we're going to test the trigger. And you can see that it is connected. It found some test data. Basically, it just throws that in there to test it, and we'll say continue with selected record. And now we need to put in the action. But before we can do that, the first thing we need to do is we need to create a spreadsheet for that stuff to land in. So I'm going to go to my Google account here, and let's go to Sheets. And let's create a spreadsheet for that data to go into. So we'll click blank spreadsheet. Now another important thing while this is loading is you need to put the column titles in row 1. You can't put, you can't merge and center this and make a title at the top. You just need to leave this as is. And let's change the name also to client profiles. And then we're going to enter column titles for the things we want. So if it's for pulling from the profile for whatever reason, let's do first name, last name, email, phone number, let's just do that. That should be good. And you'll see it's saved to my drive. So now we can go back in here, and we're going to select the action. So we're going to say Google Sheets. And this is where you're going to choose your event. So in this case, I want to create a spreadsheet row. There's several options, but since I already created a spreadsheet for that, I'm just going to add a row to that. And then I also need to sign in. Okay, so I paused my screen while I pulled that up, but basically I'm signing in with Google here to my Gmail account, and I'm going to click allow. Alright, so now it's connected, and I'm going to hit continue. And then where do you want to pull that spreadsheet from? So here you could do from like Google Drive, or in this case I'm just going to click spreadsheet. And I'm going to find, you might have several in there. You want to find the one that you created a template for. So we're just going to say client profiles. That's the only one in here. And worksheet, we're going to select sheet 1, because if you look here, that's sheet 1 is where we created that. So sheet 1. And now it's going to pull the column titles that we created. So first name, last name, email. And you're just going to map everything essentially. So here, and you can, if it's right there at the top, it's easy to just click here. But if it's something that you can't find right away, I'm sure we'll have an example here in a second. If I don't want to have to scroll through all these fields here, I can just search here and then pick whatever I want. and you'll just go through and select all of these so that you have an item in each one. Okay, so now I've selected everything so it's all mapped correctly. I'm going to hit continue. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to test that step. So we'll just go ahead and click test step, and it's going to use just, you can see here, fake random made up data to see if it can submit that information to your Google Sheet. And you can see here it says a spreadsheet row was sent to Google Sheets about 1 second ago. So if we look here, yes, that did work. Alright, so we know that's all set up correctly. So we're gonna, if it's not, make sure that your mapping is set up correctly. But if it looks good, you can go ahead and click publish. And now it is published. Alright, so once you do that, now if you were to go into, you can again see my spreadsheet just has that one row, that test row, which we could delete that now if we wanted to since it's all fake. I can go into VCRM and let's do new profile. And then we need to put an address in there. And now there's also this checkbox is disable Zapier notification. You will see that on most of your screens now once you get this enabled. And what that does is if I were to check this and then click create, it will shut this one off from being sent to Zapier. So if there's a client you don't want to go to that spreadsheet, make sure you check this box before you create. Or if you used edit as a trigger, you might want to check that after you have sent that data over, unless you need to send it again in a new row. But for this case, we do want this to go over, so I'm going to go ahead and click create. And now that has created, and if we click on our spreadsheet, you can see there it is. So that's a good example of, like I said, if you just want to keep track of your clients, or if you could set up a similar thing to go to your email marketing program rather than a simple spreadsheet like that. So that's one, and then I'm going to do one other example that maybe is a little bit more advanced, I guess. So in this case, let's name this before we change. So this is, we'll just name it client profiles. Alright, so that's my first Zap. So let's create one. Now, like I said, you can use different triggers. So the nice thing about it is if I use, say, create or edit reservation as a trigger, you can also include things from the parent data above that. So in the example of a reservation, you could also include things from that reservation's trip or that reservation's profile that it is under. So that way you could create, let's do a client trips spreadsheet. So let's go first to Google Sheets, and let's create a new one, and let's say I just want to see a spreadsheet with a listing of my clients and their trips that are booked. So again, we're going to do first name, last name, let's do email, and then let's say trip name, Alright, so we'll just do all of that. And we'll rename this client trip data. Okay, so now we're going to create another Zap. And you're going to repeat those same steps. So we're going to search for VCRM. And in this case, so this is where it gets kind of tricky, because the problem with, you saw that I included things from the reservation screen like the supplier and the reservation total. The problem with that is you can't use create as a trigger if you wanted, say, the reservation total in there, because you can't enter a reservation total in VCRM until you've already created it and you add your reservation components and put your prices in there. So we don't want to use create. We would rather use edit in that case, because I can disable the send to Zapier while I'm getting everything put in and entered correctly. And then once it's already, all in there and everything looks good, then I'll uncheck that disable send to Zapier box. I'll resave it so it sends it to Zapier, and then I'll check that box again. That way if I come in and resave it again later, it doesn't send the same duplicate data. So again, we're going to use edit reservation, and we'll hit continue. And we need to take that webhook URL again and go in here. And now we need to look for reservation create. So reminder profile group, it's at the bottom here. So we need to enable this, click this, click test. Test was successful, which again you have to do that, and then click save. And now we just double check, yes, it is in there. Alright, we're going to go in here, and before I move on, let's rename this. And we will test the trigger on the Zapier side of things. And it did find data, so we're good there. And again, I'm going to select Google Sheets, create a spreadsheet row, select the spreadsheet that I want to use, and I'm just going to pause my screen while I select all these, just so it makes the video a little bit shorter. But it'll be the exact same as we did before. Okay, so now I've got everything entered. You can see email to email and so on. Got all that, and I'm going to hit continue. And again, it's going to test this step, so you can see right now it's empty. Go back in here, click test step. It's going to send this information to my spreadsheet. You can see it was done. Now if we click here, you can see that is in there. And again, because that was just a test, we can delete that. And I'll click publish. Alright, so now that that is published, I'm going to go into VCRM, and I already created a trip just to save some time here, but you can see there's no reservation under it, so I'm going to add a new reservation. And I'm going to check this box for right now, because it won't do anything if I just click create, but as soon as I create that and then I start adding components or editing, if I click save before I'm done, it's going to send data that's going to be missing items from the spreadsheet. So I'm going to disable it for right now, and let's just say package, whatever the supplier is. Put in my booking number, go ahead and click create, and let's just add a hotel. And I think that should cover pretty much everything, but let's just save just so we get the price in there. And now I'm going to uncheck this. You'll see because I have this box checked, it didn't add anything in there. I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to uncheck this and then save again. And now that I've done that with the box unchecked, if I go back in here, you can see it populated that. So had I not checked that box when I first saved it, it would have added a reservation total of 0 because that's not calculated until you resave it the first time. So now that I have that, I want to remember to go back in here and check this box again, because if I don't, if I just click save again, it's going to add that as a duplicate item on my spreadsheet. So I need to remember to delete that. And then just go back in here and check that, click save, and now it will not add that. So I know there's a lot to this initially for the setup. That's why I'm making this video, and I'm also going to have written instructions that you'll be able to find in the user center. I think I'm going to create a separate folder in the user center for Zapier information, which I will have a link to this video and a link to a document with written instructions as well. But there are so many uses for this. Think outside the box. If you have any other ideas to add to this, any features that you think we're missing with this, be sure to reach out, because I think this will be a very beneficial, useful tool for a lot of users. But yeah, if you have any questions, reach out, let us know. Thank you.